Start with the roll call.
Councilman Daly?
Here.
Councilman Nart?
Here.
Councilman Popescu? Mayor Pro Tempore Duper?
Present.
Mayor Risby?
Here.
All present. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We start as usual with our invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilman Popescu. Please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity you've given us to be in this amazing country, this wonderful state, and this beautiful city. We ask that you be with us tonight as we deliberate and make decisions for the betterment of our community, our institutions, and our citizens. We thank you again for all the blessings you've given us, and we also ask that you be with all of our leaders across the country as they make decisions on various other positions. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any added or deleted items?
No, sir.
Would the public like to speak on any items not on the agenda? I have one request. We'll start with Andy Wheeler. Come forward.
I live down on Redlands Boulevard between Mountain View, and the area that I'm concerned about is between the dollar store and the old drive-in theater property. I live in the Alto Camino mobile home park there, and I take a walk most every morning. I walk up to where I used to work at the university, and I've been noticing an uptake in graffiti in my neighborhood, and also I've been trying to find out what the status is on the property that's on the west side there where the drive-in theater was, because the gates are cut all the time there, and I've come up and asked some of the officers about this, and what I'm seeing is an uptake on the homeless that are living between the bushes there and the fencing, and I'm seeing them camp out there quite often nowadays, and I know there's probably a lot of that going on, but I'm kind of concerned about the effects, and especially the trash and all the garbage that I'm seeing, which attracts other elements to that area, and they travel through our mobile home park there quite a bit. The property also on the other side, that's the empty lot between the dollar store and the Alto Camino mobile home park. I'm seeing their signage and their bushes and trees that are halfway out to the street, and that's a public safety issue. Besides, the people that service the park there at Alto Camino, they have to actually go around and turn their carts around when they're out servicing the area there, and so I'm kind of putting in a word for them too. Anyway, that's my concern. I'm wondering what's being done about that. Also, in the Stater Brothers Plaza, there are people that are camping out there constantly. I won't even go into some of the businesses now. Stater Brothers has done a pretty good job of trying to keep the people away from the front of those that are pestering and panhandling. But the vacant property where Blockbuster used to be, there's two guys that are camped out there right now that have been drinking beer all day. And the guys on the other property that I talked to this morning as I was walking over where the drive-in theater was, again, these are guys that have been arrested for 5150 out in the middle of the street, flipping people off and daring people to hit them. And these are the kind of people that are now starting to take residence in my neighborhood, and I'm concerned about it. The trash and the things that are going on in the Dollar Tree store area too are getting out of hand, and no one seems to pick it up, and I know the police have their hands full, but who's going to be doing this? The community should have some concern about this. And I don't know whose responsibility it is, because a lot of these places, the business owners are not even around here. And so, and I've lived here for at least 40 years, and one thing that I've noticed is that down here on the corner, you know where A Dong restaurant is, the Vietnamese restaurant, there's a lady that's been selling Sun newspapers there for, you know, as long as I can remember. And that seems to me to be a public safety issue too. When people are stopping to pay for newspapers and they're stopping traffic, I don't think that should be allowed. And anyway, that's kind of what I had to say. I'm just seeing a general degeneration of the area, and I don't know how it is in the rest of Loma Linda, but anyway, that's kind of what I've been observing.
I have a question. Right here.
Yes.
Is the graffiti you've been saying on public property or on private property?
Well, I'll give you an example. Some of it is on the sidewalks on public property. You know, they nail our fencing there at Alto Camino quite often. And the other ones, you know, there's apartment buildings that are over on the, it'd be the south side. You know, they've nailed all the walls on there. Again, those are private. The dollar store, their sign has been tagged, you know, big time for a long time. Whoop. And also someone told me that, you know, that they've tagged along the front of the building. You know, and I don't know who the owners are or where they're coming from, but I happened to walk over there today. One of the officers was over there because somebody had parked a trailer there in their parking lot, and they red tagged that. But I went in and talked to the district manager there, and, you know, again, I just happened to catch him. If I would have talked to the regular manager, they wouldn't even have had time to talk to me. But the trash that's in their parking lot, and all the people where I live complain about it. You know, the situation's just getting bad. You know, but the graffiti is, you know, the other day, I really appreciate someone came up from the city, and our stop sign there at Alto Camino had gotten tagged, and I reported that to the management, and they called, and that was taken care of. And also on the other side, I forget the street, but we have a back door to the park there, and people were tagging there too. So I try to make a point whenever I see tagging, because if you don't get it right away, they, you know, even if you do get it right away, they make a point of going tagging across the street to see how long it's going to take you to get it off there. But, you know, tagging is just going to make our neighborhood undesirable place. It's going to lower property values, and there's a lot of businesses that are building there now and are starting to improve the area. And anyway, that's...
You have a question?
Yes.
I appreciate your comments. I share your concerns, and I can share with you many of my concerns that are similar to yours. I was an educator for many years, and when students had complaints about faculty or curriculum or whatever, I said, what would you do? Help me understand. I'm no smarter than you are, and I'm not smarter than you are, and I don't think anybody up here is.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that you've raised issues that are legitimate, and I agree with. What recommendations do you have for us?
Let's go with the issue of tagging. When a business is tagged, how much time should they have to remove that graffiti or that tagging? You know, I don't know what the rules are on that, but I know that the business there at the Dollar Tree has had the big tagging on their sign for quite a while now. You know, what's the policy of the city? You know, do the code enforcement people go around and give them a certain amount of time to remove the tagging if it's a private business? You know, what's the policy on panhandlers or people selling on the streets? I don't have an answer for that. I can't do anything about that.
Well,
so,
what do you recommend?
Well,
if you were in charge, what would you do?
I wouldn't allow it. I wouldn't allow the people to be out there selling.
So arrest them?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that doesn't help us, though. I understand, and the point that I'm trying to make is this is a dilemma.
Okay.
It's a social dilemma, and we all have to work collaboratively to figure out how to deal with it. And if this group had more wisdom than you do, we would have resolved it by now. But it's a complicated problem. It's a very complicated problem. So I appreciate you raising the issue. It's fair. It's appropriate. but I would seek your continued involvement in city activities so that you can help us be part of a solution as well, because it's very challenging.
So on that note, we'll get code enforcement a little bit more proactive out there, and when you sit down, you and I can chat. I'll get you a contact so that we can get a little better communication so we can be on top of that.
Well, I know I was talking with a couple of the gentlemen that were camped out there this morning, you know, right across from Enterprise. Again, I went over and talked to them at Enterprise. These guys have been going over and throwing stuff at their windows, you know, and I said, why aren't you reporting this? You know, it's fine to say that, you know, and I think maybe I should have some better answers for how this is going on. But people realize that if they complain, they're either going to get hit harder by the people that are doing this nonsense, or they're not going to get any type of an answer. And anyway, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for this. But my example is, what does the council here think about the lady that's been selling the Sun newspapers for 30, 40 years?
What is the issue with that? Because I know the lady you're talking about.
Okay.
I've driven past there.
Why is that allowed?
Why is it a problem? How is it a problem?
Is it legal to be selling there and stopping traffic?
How is it a problem?
I'm asking if it's legal.
I don't know
if I was doing it, if I was a vendor selling flowers or selling cupcakes on that corner, I guarantee you I would be asked to move along.
I have had the privilege of traveling the world, and there are people selling newspapers or flowers or whatever. Every city I've been in, I believe. I haven't kept track of it. And so if it is a hazard, then let's define it and be sure it's coded and deal with it. I don't know what the issue is, though. I see people, I know the lady, she doesn't have any teeth, and she's sold papers for years, and as long as I've been here, I think.
It's the same thing at intersections when people are panhandling. They're stopping traffic, they're getting in the way, and they're causing a public safety issue. It's the same issue. And that's
Perhaps what we should do is instruct our staff to prepare a presentation on this topic and what our options are and what we can do to step up the enforcement.
And we can do that, but
because we can't take any actions today because it's not an agendized
yes,
item.
I understand that.
And we're kind of stretching our authority to even talk this much about it. But I think my response is I think this is a huge problem, and I agree with you. So I think we should do something about it.
Sure. Actually, nobody disagrees with that, though.
Well, then
nobody
let's do
disagrees.
Then let's
with
do
that.
it.
And we've been dealing with this for years.
I've got another suggestion, maybe for the interim while we work on that, because
Sure.
policy can sometimes take a while. So,
Sure.
it might be a great opportunity to introduce one of our newest members here to the city of Loma Linda from the Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Matt Griffith, who will take over the role, basically under the captain as our chief of police. And so I've known both of them for a long time, and I think you might, maybe if you get a chance, go over and see them, or if you can wait around or shoot them an email or a call, because I know that they are very actively engaged, and I know Lieutenant Griffith's going to really, he's probably looking for ways to really to cut his teeth on what's going on here in the city. So
Is Ted Griffith?
yes, Lieutenant Griffith.
I'll see you later.
Sorry, I'm not trying to, if maybe you want to say something, Matt?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your concerns with us. I have noted everything that you've said and all of your concerns. We'll do our very best to get some extra patrols in those areas. And I just wanted to share with you on Sunday, actually we had 7 deputies out in the area of Bryn Mawr and Redlands Boulevard, where they actually did a foot patrol of the orange groves in that area, and they noted several homeless camps. They made 4 arrests during that time. So it is an issue that we are aware of, and we will do our very best. And after the meeting, I'd be happy to speak with you and get your information, and we'll do what we can to help you.
Sure. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak on any item not on the agenda? Okay, no takers. Then we'll move ahead to item number 1. We get the results of our June 5 election. June 5 election.
Thank you. We have Council Bill R 2018-29 confirming the results of the June 5, 2018 election that we would need to vote on, and then I can swear in the newly elected council members.
I'll go ahead and move Council Bill R 2018-29.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. That is approved unanimously. Let's proceed to our oath of allegiance for our city councilman-elect.
If Councilman Duper and Councilman Daley can meet me down below. If you would raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purposes of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties you are about to enter? And then I have your certificate of election that reads, I, Barbara Nicholson, City Clerk of the City of Loma Linda, State of California, do hereby certify that at a general municipal election held in said city on the 5th day of June 2018, Phil Duper and Ron Daly were elected to the office of member of the City Council as appears by the official returns of said election and the statement of votes cast now on file in my office. Congratulations.
4 more years. Now you get the victory speeches. And 3 minutes, strict.
You have a forced timetable for it.
But I'm starting now. I'm starting now.
You know, just real quick, I'd like to, on behalf of both Ron and I, we'd like to thank all the people that supported us in this election cycle, most importantly our families who put up with a lot, and all the campaigning, the meetings. My campaign manager, Junior right there, Jacob, my boy. And especially I also want to thank the Loma Linda Firefighters Association for all the hard work and effort that they put into the campaign also. Our volunteers, people that came out to the meet and greets and all of that. So thank you guys very much.
Well done, Phil. I'm not sure I'll be quite that brief, but you hit the high points.
You can have 5 minutes. He only took 1.
Okay. This is not a job that I originally sought. I kind of got talked into, and it's been my privilege to serve as a city councilman for the last 8 years. The last 3 or 4 months have been a very interesting journey. I believe I have heard, seen, and experienced some of the very best of our community. And I've also heard issues that perplexed and puzzled me, that have, if anything, motivated me to have an increased focus on what's in the best interest of our community. We have a beautiful little city here, and we have a lot of really, really nice people. I've lived here now for 43 years, and it's been a privilege. But I have to confess that in some of the interactions in the process of campaigning that have been encouraging, enlightening, and at times discouraging and frustrating. And I want to lay those out because I'm dedicating myself over the next 4 years to address some of those issues. If we broaden our perspective outside of just the city of Loma Linda, I am very troubled by the tribal politics in this country right now. It's not new. John Meacham has written a wonderful book that helps us understand that we've been through these challenges before, and we've come through in better shape. And I believe that we have the potential and the probability of doing that again. But I have been told some things by some of the voters that have been very discouraging to me. In 1968, in the midst of the Vietnam War and a lot of other turmoil, I registered as a Democrat. And I don't have any particular bond or affiliation with the Democratic Party. But their social values reflected what I felt and the way I was raised. You take care of the needy. You try to improve society. It's not only about money and enhancement. And I guess I was both raised and adopted those values as a part of my life. So when I was told over the last 3 or 4 months, I can't vote for you because you're a Democrat. And I said, well, what does that mean to you? Well, I've never voted for a Democrat, and I can't vote for one now. And I said, well, let's define what we're talking about. I'm a social liberal. I believe in all of us having needs and rights. And I'm a fiscal conservative. I want to do it with I don't want to waste money, waste resources. And, well, I'm sorry. And then I have, on a more positive note, been told, well, I like you, but you're the first Democrat I'll ever vote for. I've never voted for a Democrat before. I don't care about the labels. I care about the issues. I care about the core values. I was also, I have to confess, disappointed when I heard comments. I was surprised, to be very frank, in the number of people, and Councilman Duper warned me about this, but I was I was disappointed when I heard people suggest that, well, what we need in the city of Loma Linda is a Trump wall so that we can wall out everybody that doesn't fit our standards. I understand where that's coming from. I do. And there are 3 issues I'm going to address very briefly. One is our community culture. A second is our communication. And a third is beautification. I care about all those things. And I know that there are a lot of people in the city of Loma Linda that share that concern that I have. We heard a little bit about that tonight. But those are complicated issues. They're difficult issues. And I don't think there are easy answers to that. And so something that I learned many years ago, and quite frankly, one of the great privileges of my life as being part of this city council, is that I've had the opportunity to serve on other boards and task forces and community agencies. And as people have become familiar with me and we can joke and talk and so forth, one of their questions that I've heard too frequently kind of revolves around the issue of is Loma Linda a club for saints or a hospital for sinners? Because your philosophy says one thing, but we kind of experience a different thing. And I think as a community, that's an issue that we need to come to grips with. I am now 68 years old, and I'm very pleased and proud that I've been reelected, but I'm not worried about the next reelection. I know that's a big part of politics, is you say things and do things and posture so that you can ensure your reelection. I may run again in 4 years, I may not, I don't know. But I'm at an age and stage in life where I am committed now to focus on what are the priorities of our community. I don't like it when I drive down roads and see in neighborhoods weeds that are growing 2 feet, 3 feet tall, let alone on Barton Road, where we have medians that at times will present that kind of a condition. So beautification, I'm very focused on beautification, and I want to do what we can to restore the beauty of our community. But what's more important to me than what our community looks like is the kind of culture that we have, the community culture, that we be supportive of each other and helpful to each other. And I appreciate the comments, sir, that you made a little earlier. I really do. And I was not trying to give you a hard time. But we need everybody's involvement in helping find solutions to some of these things. I am appalled that I live in a country where, whether you agree with why people entered this country or how they entered it or not, that we separate children from adults. It's wrong. And now we are struggling to figure out how to get them back together again. I can't solve the problems of the country and immigration, but I think that we need to look very carefully and seriously about how do we deal with some of these issues in Loma Linda. We have a problem with panhandling. I know that. We've had a problem with homeless and living in the orange groves. We even, I don't know, a year or two ago had some veterans that set up their own little village on the top of Clark's and were barbecuing in a hibachi that the city had to address. It's complicated stuff, but I don't think building a wall is the right way. I don't think being a club for saints is the right way. And I don't have all the answers. But what I do have is a commitment to working collaboratively with our citizens to try to figure out how we can address these things most effectively. And I appreciate that Bill Arnold is here, because he is a part of an institution, the Academy, where you've got young, energetic teenagers that are very value-driven, that are ready to engage in these kinds of things. And I think the city needs to figure out how we can collaborate on some of these projects. None of us have all the answers. Another issue that I heard about far more frequently than I anticipated in the process, and I will tell you, I did not walk the streets as much as Phil Duper. I mean, nobody worked harder on this election than Phil Duper. I think that I floated through in part on the coattails of Phil Duper, and I appreciate that, Phil, because I know you worked your tail off on this. But one of the things that when Phil and I and my wife and Jamie, his wife, were out pounding the streets over the last few months, is communication. I have always kind of, and I think the city council has kind of assumed that we have a website. Everyone, it's an open forum for city council. Anyone can attend, anyone can speak. And so we have effective communication. What I learned is that there are a lot of people out there, and I heard from them, who are concerned that they don't know what's going on. I was asked, you know, what's going on next to Enterprise Rental Car? There's a lot of building going on. I have no clue what's going on. And I told them, well, come to city council, check with the city. Our agendas are always published in advance. And, but we have, you know, it's kind of an unfortunate reality that we have a North Loma Linda and a South Loma Linda. And some of the issues you hear are different between the two Loma Lindas. I heard a lot from people who are concerned that we have an increasing number of not only out of state but out of country homeowners who are leasing, and there's nothing wrong with this, there's nothing illegal about it, but leasing their homes to students and residents and so forth. And if you have a 4-bedroom house with a 2-car garage and you have 4, 5, 6 people in that house, they can't all park in a 2-car garage. And there are people that are very concerned that that's impacting their home values. I don't have an answer, but I think it's a legitimate concern that people have. I'm concerned that we have talked in this forum about the need to control our water use and the diminishing water resources that we have. It's a real issue. But I'm also frustrated, and I've already alluded to this, that we have people that have used that as a license to just stop watering their yards and let the weeds grow. And I'm hearing from people that are saying, I'm worried about my home value. I'm going to retire. And my house isn't going to be worth as much as it would have been if I had neat and tidy yards around me. These are real issues. And I hope, and I will certainly do whatever I can to address some of these issues in a public forum in City Council. And again, I don't pretend to have all the answers, but there are very real problems, and there are people in our community that are hurting, that are worried, and we need to address some of those issues because they don't come in here and pound their fist on the podium, but they're worried. So I am not a particularly good campaigner. Councilman Duper is much better and more energetic than I am on that account. But I will tell you that this has been an enlightening experience for me the last several months to learn that there are people that have legitimate, credible concerns that I share that I don't have answers for. But I think that's what this elected body is responsible for, providing some vision and leadership to address some of those things. And I am committed, and I'm stating this publicly, to do everything I can to help begin to address some of those issues. So it has been, you know, I've had more than my share of positive experiences and accolades and reinforcement and so forth in my life. And I'm at a point now where I want to give back. I mean, I'm dead serious about wanting to give back to the community. I don't have all the answers. None of us do. But I'm very serious about wanting to learn, continue to learn, and understand these issues, and beat ourselves up in these meetings to try to figure out how we can address things. I'll just share one thing before closing. I was speaking with, and I'm embarrassed to admit I don't remember who it was now, but somebody from another city that was telling me about how in his city they have collaborated with local churches to fund a position to deal with the homeless issue. So the money's not coming from the city, but the city's working collaboratively with the local churches to deal with it, and they're making headway. We haven't talked about that. I'd never even thought of that. But I think that, as well as a lot of other things, are worth looking at. We have a major university here that has been a part of my life for many years, and they do a lot of good things. But one of the things that they did that I think ultimately may have been a mistake, I don't know, but they were feeding the homeless in San Bernardino. That sounds good. But ultimately, through a process, they decided to feed the homeless of San Bernardino, but feed them in Loma Linda. Well, when the homeless came to Loma Linda, they realized this is a pretty nice community. This beats San Bernardino. And so they've started to house themselves here and get fed. So good works don't always result in good results. And we need to start digging deep to figure out. We've done a lot of good things over the last 8 years that Phil and I have been here, and I'm very proud of it. I mean, we've got the VA clinic. We've got some housing developments that I think we have every reason to be very hopeful for and proud of when they're finally developed. We have more trails. We've improved the South Hills trail system, and I'm very proud of all of those things. But there are some core issues, and we heard about some of it tonight, and that we need to roll up our sleeves and deal with. And as a fairly newly minted retiree, I've got the time and I have the motivation to begin to try to figure some of this stuff out. So I want to thank the citizens of Loma Linda for entrusting me with the opportunity to try to address some of these things, and I'm committed to try to do that and provide some leadership in the process. Thank you.
Do you reserve the balance of your time? Okay, the next item is 2A, and it belongs to the city clerk.
Thank you. Nominations are now in order for the office of mayor.
I'll go ahead and nominate Mayor Rigsby for a third term or fourth term. I can't remember. Fifth. Okay, you're keeping track, I guess.
Second.
I'd actually like to nominate myself.
And I would like to nominate myself. And frankly, that's no reflection on Mayor Rigsby. He's done an outstanding job. I don't even know another mayor over the last 8 years, but I'm interested in taking a crack at some initiatives.
And I'll second what Councilman Daly said. You know, we haven't had an election in a long time, and that was brought up as a key issue in this last election cycle. And in fact, Mayor Rigsby and Councilman Popescu were elected in 2008 and have not had to run for 2 election cycles. Councilman Daly and I didn't have to run for 1 cycle, and we just ran again. I think change is good, and I fear that we're in a position where we're trying to keep things the same for too long, too much of a status quo. And I'll echo what Councilman Daly said. There just comes a time for change every once in a while. During this election cycle, it was a tough one for both of us. We put in a lot of hard work. Our families endured quite a bit, from frustration to endless time spent campaigning, working hard. And it's just one of those opportunities, I think, where we need to reassess and look forward. I was blessed in this cycle to get a large amount of votes, the highest amount of votes in the election, but not only that, actually the highest amount of votes in the last several election cycles, even higher than some of the other council members that are on the dais. You know, we've had a mayor who's been in place for 8 years now, and a mayor who's made comments to previous mayors that he would like to beat his record of being a mayor over 10 years. I don't think that's healthy for the city. I think we need to look at the city and what's important for our residents and our community, and not focus on individual interests. So I have served as the mayor pro tem for the last 4 years. That in all other circles and all other cities would be a position leading up to the position of mayor. And I feel that this is an opportunity where we have a chance to make some change. Because what we're signaling to the community is that if we do not change, that will actually drive out more interest and more voters and more potential candidates in 2 years. That we are not comfortable where we feel like we have to keep the same people in power.
Are there any other nominations? Then the motion would be to close nominations and vote. So I'll take all those in favor of Councilman Rigsby as mayor. Please vote.
Yes.
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 All those in favor of Councilman Daley?
Yes.
I'll change my vote. I'll vote for Councilman Daley because it's been made pretty clear that it's become futile. So I vote for you, Ron.
Well, with 3 votes, Mayor, Councilman Rigsby is the mayor for the next 2 years. And you can take over for the mayor pro tem.
Thank you for that resounding support. I really appreciate the opportunity to have led the city council for the last 8 years, and I think it'll be interesting to see where we go as a city. As has been said, we have a lot of commonality, but there's a lot of challenge that's coming to us. A lot of it's externally driven, some of it's internal. There's, as with any kind of a stagnant situation, there's a natural amount of conflict that kind of bubbles to the surface. And I think it's up to us as the leaders of the city to answer the call to stand for things that matter to the people in the city. And I think everybody here on this dais does that to the best of their ability. And I appreciate each one of them for their commitment to our city. It's not entirely easy to be on the city council, but it is quite enjoyable, I think, mainly because it's probably the only place in our lives where people actually believe in us more than we believe in ourselves. It's a huge position of trust that we're given here. There are a lot of people who think that a city councilman is something that's a really big deal. I remember when I first came to Loma Linda as a medical student 35 years ago. One of my roommates, and we were, just like a lot of other houses, a whole bunch of cars in one driveway with a 2-car garage. But one of my roommates, 6 of them total, said that he knew the mayor. He knew who the mayor was and knew her. And I thought that was so cool. I knew somebody who knew the mayor. And I thought it was a really big deal. And there are lots of other people out there who think that it's a big deal for us to be on the city council. And after a while, like Councilman Duper and Councilman Daley have mentioned, after a while it starts to grow old and somewhat pat and something you're used to. But I think we have to keep reminding ourselves that we really have a position of trust. And there are a lot of people who depend on us, and there are a lot of people who believe in us beyond what we believe in each other and what we believe in ourselves. So I recognize that trust that's placed in us, and I hope that each one of us will acquit ourselves well in that position of community trust. And with that, we go to the election of the mayor pro tem. And for that, I would like to nominate Councilman Lenart for mayor pro tem.
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations?
I'll move Councilman Duper.
I'll second that.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I believe that means that the nominations are closed. Shall we do this sequentially the same way that Barbara did? Okay. So we'll go in the order they were nominated. Those in favor of Councilman Lenart, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those in favor of, now I've forgotten whether it was Councilman Duper. Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the vote is 3-2. And Councilman Lenart is elected mayor pro tem. Now we'll proceed to item 3, which is appointment of city council members to boards and commissions. San Bernardino County Transportation Authority. If you pull out your packet, it mentions who is currently in the position, who is the current delegate and the alternate. And currently that position is held by me, and alternate is Councilman Daley. I would appreciate your support to continue in that position as the delegate, and I would support Councilman Daley for continuing as the alternate.
Do we need separate motions on all these, or how do you want to?
I think we can maybe, if there's more than one candidate, maybe we would have a vote, but otherwise I think we can just go with consensus.
Well, I was wondering if everybody that's listed wants to stay with what they're doing.
Well, I think we
wants to
should
do something else. Could we vote it all at one time?
I think we should probably go through them one at a time.
I'll make the motion that we leave it as is.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to leave the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority as it is.
No, all of them. The entire list.
Okay.
I'm not in favor of that. So are you going to go to Omnitrans next?
There's a motion and a second to leave them all the way they are.
Okay. Well, then we'll wait for that vote then.
So the appropriate approach would be to take a vote on that unless there's a substitute motion or a tabling, which would supersede a primary motion. Okay, then there's no other motion, then let's go to discussion. Is there any discussion on the item?
Call for the vote.
A call for the vote requires a vote. So a call for the vote is a cloture motion, which would end discussion. So the vote in favor would be to end all discussion and proceed to the vote.
You're clear about what we're voting on, though, to keep things the way they are, correct? Is that
No,
what
what
your
I'm
motion
saying
was?
is, what I'm saying is when there's a call for the motion, when there's a call for the question, if someone calls the question, then there's a vote taken to decide if we're going to proceed directly to the vote without any discussion. That's what that means. It's equivalent to a Senate cloture motion. So, was there a second for the call for the question?
Yes, I second it for purpose of the discussion.
But this is for the cloture motion.
Oh,
Was there a second? Okay, if there's no second, then we proceed with discussion. Then the cloture motion fails. So we can discuss. So what's your pleasure?
We go one item at a time.
I'd be
Okay.
okay with that, too.
What
I'm not
was
sure
the
that
comment?
requires a vote. That's just, it's up to you to decide how you want to do it, so.
So my comment is what it appears to be going on here is that you're trying to manipulate or control this whole slate all the way down. So it's very clear, even though Councilman Daly and I just won the recent election with higher votes than any of you have ever obtained, you're trying to take control over everything, including all the committees and commissions. So again, my motion was we leave everything the way it is. And I would note that the residents are watching everything that you do, and you will be held accountable in 2 years.
Yep.
And my comment is that, I appreciate the opportunity I've had over the last 8 years to serve on the Omnitrans board. That's 3B. And I'm currently serving as a 2-year term as chair of the committee, so I would appreciate having the opportunity to continue in that capacity. We've been dealing with the new Arrow project, which is the Redlands Light Rail that will run between the San Bernardino Metro Center all the way out to University of Redlands. And that also involves the SBCTA, San Bernardino Council Transportation Authority, and I would appreciate the opportunity to serve on that as well, since I now have more time to devote to transportation issues.
Well, I personally have only one of the positions that I would like to change out of all of them. So,
And that's so you and your buddy can control the airport and the IVDA? Because you've asked me to step down from that, and I don't want to step down from that.
I haven't asked you anything on that. I'm interested in serving as one of the primary members on the IVDA board.
Exactly.
Not because I want to control the airport, but because in the past, when I could have done it, I had a chairmanship of a committee at the university that didn't allow me to do it. And now that I have been freed of that responsibility, I would just appreciate the support of people to do that. And I would be willing to, and it currently says on the form that Councilman Leonard is the alternate, and he is not. I'm the alternate, and I've been attending all the meetings since I became an alternate. I'm interested in what's going on at the IVDA. I have a long history going back to the age of 10 of involvement with aviation, and I've been interested in it for a long time. I would like to have been on it for the last 10 years, but I couldn't until now. So that's my only switch that I see on the entire list.
And I'd like to stay on it.
Okay.
So your game.
Okay, so let's go through them individually, or I guess we're going to have the vote, because there was a motion and a second
Well, I
to
think
keep them all the same.
it sounds to me like, all right, that's one motion, is that everything remains as it is.
Mhm.
And I will vote in opposition to that because I'd like to look at them individually based on the merits
Okay.
and interests.
So are you withdrawing, well, there was a you're okay with that too?
I'm sorry, I'm not tracking. What?
So that sounds like a withdrawal of your second.
That works. I can withdraw the second. We go through them one at a time.
Okay.
Whatever.
So there's a motion without a second then to keep them all the same. So then we'll go through them individually. San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, current delegate, I am in that position. The alternate is Councilman Daly, and I support keeping that the way it is.
And I would like to propose that with the obvious link between SBCTA and Omnitrans, that I have the opportunity to do both. Primary.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, and who would you put as the alternate in your motion?
You could be the alternate, Mr. Mayor.
I'm open to,
Okay, so there's a motion to flip the positions between the current delegate and the alternate. Those in favor of that motion say aye.
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 Those opposed say no.
No.
No. So that motion fails. Is there another motion?
I nominate Mayor Rigsby to be the current delegate and maintain Councilman Daly as alternate.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no.
No.
Alternate. No, this is for
this
the...
was SBCTA.
This is SBCTA.
Yeah, SBS.
SBCTA.
Okay, so that passes 3-2. The current delegation will continue. Omnitrans is next. I'm in support of the current representation.
I second that.
Any further discussion? Any alternate proposal? Hearing none, those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. IVDA.
I propose that we keep myself and add Mayor Rigsby as the two current delegates. And
Can you speak up a little
I
louder?
propose that we keep myself and Mayor Rigsby as the addition and put Mr. Duper as the alternate.
All right, that's a motion. So another motion isn't in order until that's either approved or defeated, correct?
Well, yeah, there can always be a substitute motion but it hasn't been seconded yet, so it doesn't count.
Substitute motion that I would move would be that we leave IVDA as it is with Councilman Popescu and Duper as the representatives.
Okay, so that motion got a second. Any further discussion? Okay, those in favor of the motion to keep it the way it is, say aye.
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 Those opposed say no.
No.
No. So that motion fails. Is there another motion?
We seem to be tracking the tribal politics that I was complaining about earlier.
Yep.
But so be it.
Should remember
So
to
is
read-
there
read what
another
you sow.
motion?
You reap what you sow, is what I said.
Is there an alternate proposal? Well, there was a proposal without a second from Councilman Popescu.
I'll make it again if I have to.
Well, I'll second. And also note that I was not an alternate on there. That's a mistake.
Yeah, I noted that earlier. I think you were for a while, but I became the alternate about 6 months ago.
I'm not sure why there's so much animosity over something like this, but
Because it's very clear the three of you are trying to take control, and you've taken control over the entire council and now all of the way you want to play it. Even though you haven't been through an election in several years, but yet we just went through one and obtained more votes than you've ever obtained.
My only interest in having the mayor on the IBDA.
What is that interest? Yeah, I'd like to know.
Yeah, you asked for me to make it, so I'm going to make it. I was hoping I didn't have to make this, but I'll do it. I've been the chair of the IVDA now for 4 years, and you've been the main second guy, and I have lost track of the number of meetings you have failed to show up. In fact, you failed to show up at the last meeting. Luckily, Dusty was the alternate, and he was able to fill in for you. Every meeting I asked the clerk, has everybody confirmed they are going to attend? And almost 70% of the time said yes. Duper State will be there, and you just don't show up. I, as the chair, you don't even notify me when you don't show up. And then the challenge is that when you only attend about half the meetings, and
Well, I would say present the record.
Yeah, at the next meeting, maybe I will get the record. It's approximately half the meeting. So at some point, it was between you and another person who wasn't attending.
Has this been discussed before, or is this the first time you're bringing this up? Because I've never heard this before.
Yeah, it's the first time I'm bringing it up.
Which is very unfortunate.
Well, I think we're all adults. I think they can.
I don't think we are all adults.
But I think the challenge is that when you're not there often enough, and then you do show up, it makes it challenging because you're not always up to speed with everything that's happening. So it's challenging to make decisions when not everybody's there. And I know you talked a lot about you want to be engaged, and now you're retired. So I'm hoping that also includes maybe actually attending. Mayor Rigsby was the alternate.
Who are you talking to when you say that?
To you, because...
So you're saying I haven't been attending?
No. Let me finish my thought here, because you're the alternate SBA on the transportation one. But Mayor Rigsby, one of the things that I appreciate about him, as an alternate, he showed up. He doesn't have to show up, but he showed up and he stayed informed. And as a result, when you showed up as an alternate, it actually shows that you're engaged. So in case the primary doesn't show up, you can step right in without any issue. So I'm hoping that maybe as an alternate, you also show up at the Sandbag meetings as well. And that applies for Mr. Duper. I mean, he's going to be
Do you know
alternate.
that I communicate with Mike?
I'm sorry?
You know that I talk to Mike probably once a week. Outside of you spending most of your time over there, I actually do communicate with the director of IVDA. So I do know what's going on. In fact, I'm trying to facilitate a deal with him outside for some expansion and growth. So,
And I think that's a great idea. There's nothing wrong with that.
so, but again, what appears to be going on here is this very clear: we want to control everything, and we're going to take whatever opportunity. And I'm really sorry because I was hoping for maybe a fresh start after this whole contentious last several months. But it's very clear that there are personal interests that are more important than city interests. And we're going to surface some of those.
Yeah, well, I guess we're all entitled to our opinion, but as you all know, I'm very invested in the airport, extremely invested.
I know you spend most of your time there. I'm not sure how your employer allows it.
And I think that the fact that I'm spending so much time there obviously upsets you, but it's too bad. The citizens have invested $300 million. We're about to invest probably another $400 to $500 million in some significant projects, which I'm not even sure you're aware of. But it takes a lot of time and energy to make sure those things take place. There's a lot of board members there. Not everybody has the ability to have a flexible schedule, and I'm fortunate to do so. And I take my job there extremely seriously. I think that many of us complain about the homeless issues and all the other issues that are happening in the community, and I think a lot of that has to do with our sister city, San Bernardino, and I truly believe that if the airport doesn't become a major economic powerhouse, the city is in serious trouble. So I think it's in our best interest to see the airport really take off, and I've appreciated Mayor Rigsby's support and his efforts to help me over there, and that's why I support having him there. I think you can still play a role as an alternate. I think you all can weigh in on what we do there. It's not a secret. Everything's pretty pretty open, and
Did you not approach me a while back and ask me to step down so Mayor Rigsby could step in?
I think it's not constructive to continue to litigate something that's fairly straightforward. I have expressed my viewpoint.
Okay.
I think you like to ask questions as if you're pulling me over for a ticket, and I don't think that's appropriate. And I think a lot of people have complained about those efforts, and I think you'll give us plenty of opportunities in the next 2 years to see that again a few more times.
So where were we? I've lost track.
We just finished the IVDA. We're going on to the airport now.
I don't think
Okay.
we voted on the IVDA.
Madam Clerk, where are we?
But I,
Well then,
I
So I
believe
guess
there
it-
was a vote on the motion by Daley to leave as is that was seconded by Duper that failed. And I am unclear as to
There was a
what motion
motion,
and the second.
there was a
is
motion and a
currently.
second on Councilman Popescu's original motion that
I think we just need to have
originally
a vote on
failed to
that.
get a
Correct.
second.
And the second on that motion was Lenart.
Was from Councilman Lenart, Mayor Pro Tempore Lenart. So there's a motion to retain Councilman Popescu and appoint me as the two current delegates and Councilman Duper as the alternate. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Wait,
Oh,
discussion.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I have not heard a reasoned assessment of why, with Councilman Duper's interest in this, why he should not be continued in it.
I think I articulated my reason.
You articulated that you don't think he shows up, and I hear a different version from Councilman Duper. So where does that leave me? Where does it leave Councilman Lenart? I don't know.
Well, I think Mr. Duper also made it clear that he likes to have a few changes, and I think we're doing a few changes.
Okay, all right.
So is the discussion finished? Okay, then those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
Passes 3-2. San Bernardino International Airport Authority.
I'm currently the delegate, and Mayor Pro Tem Duper is the alternate, and I would like to put Mayor Rigsby as the alternate on that.
My. Wow, it's just a sweep. Why don't we just sweep the whole thing?
In the interest of change, I'd like to reverse that, and I move that. That Councilman Duper become the primary representative of the city of Loma Linda to the SBIAA.
I'll second that. We'll see if John actually votes one way.
I'll repeat
No,
it.
no.
You
I'll
supported
repeat it.
everything they've wanted so far.
No, the motion is,
Okay, so there's a motion,
Disappointing.
there's a motion to flip the representation of SBIAA from to Councilman Duper as the primary delegate and Councilman Popescu as the alternate, which is the opposite of the current representation. Is there any
I
further?
made a motion that we keep me as the airport delegate and put Mayor Rigsby as the alternate.
But yours did not get a second. So we'll do them in order. The one that got a motion and a second was the flipping of the two delegates, and we will proceed to a vote. Those in favor say aye.
aye.
Okay, those opposed say no.
Yes, no.
No. Was that a yes or a no? Okay.
Is there another motion out there now?
So I think that was 3 noes and 1 yes. So that failed.
I didn't hear Councilman Leonard's vote.
I voted no. I'm flipping it.
Okay.
I voted no as well.
But I would
So
like,
I counted 3 noes and 1 yes, so that fails. Is there a substitute motion?
I'll make a motion again that would keep me as the primary delegate and Mayor Rigsby as the alternate.
Are we talking about the solid waste
No,
management?
we're
board?
still talking about the airport.
Okay, what's the motion?
He wants to
I
take
think,
me out as the backup and put the mayor in as the backup.
So that was my motion.
Is there a second for that? No second. So then what do we do now?
Do you not have the 30 to make motions?
I would like to move to keep it the same.
Okay, there's a motion to keep it the same.
And same is,
Me as the...
Popescu is as the primary and Duper is the alternate. Okay, so that fails for lack of a second as well. So where do we go?
You're the leader. We voted you, so make decisions.
I'm just enacting what you guys make motions.
I made a motion, but it wasn't approved, so I don't have another motion.
It failed 1 to 3.
For just to move this along, I will second Dr. Leonard's motion.
Okay, so Dr. Leonard's motion is that Popescu be the current delegate and Duper be the alternate delegate. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did you vote?
You haven't asked for the alternate.
Oh.
I vote no.
You vote no.
The alternate is
I vote
Mr.
no.
Duper.
Yes.
Okay. And those who say,
It's contrary to the motion that I originally made.
Yeah.
those
so
who
I
are
vote no.
opposed say no.
No.
Okay, so that one passes 3 to 2. Solid Waste Management Board.
In the interest of cutting down the tribal politics, I'd be happy to step away from it if anybody wants that, or the water district. Anybody that wants that can have it.
I'll make a motion to keep
Too
that the
late,
same.
John.
It's the
Okay.
plum position. So what was the motion?
To leave that the same.
Was
I'll
there a
second.
Was there a second for that? Okay. Those in favor of keeping it the way it is, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. That's approved unanimously. San Bernardino Valley Water District Advisory Commission on Water Policy. Current delegate is Leonard, alternate is Duper.
I move that we put Mr. Duper as the main delegate and Mr. Leonard as the alternate. Switch that around.
Okay, there's a motion, a second. Is there discussion?
Yes, I would not be in favor of that, but however you
So you're
decide
not,
about it.
you'd prefer not to serve on the water?
I can continue as the alternate, but I'd prefer not to serve as the primary.
Okay.
Okay, so let's vote that one. Those in favor say aye. Well, you're the one you made the motion. Okay. Those opposed say no.
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 Well, it fails 2 to 2. I'm abstaining because I'm not going to force anybody to do anything. So we need an alternate proposal.
I guess I'll move it that we keep it the way it is.
Yeah, there's a motion and a second to keep it the way it is. Any further discussion? Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, Joint Powers Authority Insurance Board. Current delegate is Duper, alternate is City Manager Typet, and Finance Director Deanda.
And I'll move we continue that.
Oh, second.
There's a motion and a second to continue. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. That is approved unanimously. Confire, JPA Board of Directors. Current delegate, I'm in that position, and I currently serve as the chair of that organization. And the alternate is Mayor Pro Tempore Duper.
I'll move that we sustain the current representation.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to keep it the same. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. That's approved. Next, we have a public hearing, something far less contentious. Costs for weed abatement.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. The International Fire Code 2015 edition, Section 304, adopted and amended by the Loma Linda Municipal Code, Chapter 15.28, establishes the authority for removing combustible vegetation when it is determined to be a fire hazard. Section 304.1.2 states that weed, litter, flammable waste, grass, other vegetation capable of being ignited, endangering property shall be cut down and removed by the owner or the occupant of the premises. Vegetation clearance requirements in the wildland urban interface areas shall be in accordance with Chapter 49 of the California Fire Code. Excuse me. The spring 2018 weed abatement program began on March 26, 2018, with the initial inspection of approximately 435 parcels. Pursuant to Section 104.5 of the International Fire Code, 233 notices to clean property, which is Exhibit A in your packet there, were sent by regular mail on March 29, 2018, to the owners of record provided by the County Assessor's Office. Follow-up inspections began on April 16, 2018. If the abatement had not been accomplished, or if arrangements for additional time had not been made with this office, the parcel was placed on an abatement list, which was given to a city contractor for initiation of abatement work. Combustible vegetation, fire hazards were abated by the city contractor on 27 parcels. On June 7, 2018, invoices, which is your Exhibit B, specifying the cost of the work performed by the contractor, plus the city's administrative fee, were mailed to the owner of record for each parcel, giving them the opportunity to make the payment of the bill by July 10, 2018, today, as of 5 p.m. Parcels abated by the city contractor, which remain unpaid, are listed on Exhibit C. Upon completion of the documentation of the abatement work, payments were made to the contractor by the city. Now, there is an addition to Exhibit C that should be in your packet that's not marked anything. We did have, I think, 5 people come in within the last 48 hours to make payment. Owners have the opportunity to appear here at the hearing to ask questions or dispute any bills or proceedings. Subsequent to the July 10th, 2018 hearing and council action, the report of the costs with the accompanying resolutions will be forwarded to the Property Tax Division of the San Bernardino County Auditor, Controller, Recorder for collection as an assessment or liens against the property. There's no real adverse environmental impact other than it reduces fire hazard within our community. Financial impact to the city is just the recovery of the abatement costs plus the administrative fees that are outlined in Exhibit C. So my recommendation is that the City Council receive this report of the Spring 2018 Weed Abatement Program, approve the report and the accounting costs, and adopt accompanying resolution establishing liens and assessments on the properties. And if there's any questions, I'll try and answer those for you.
I'll move it.
And I'll second.
We have to have a public hearing first.
Sorry.
But thank you for your interest. We'll open the public hearing. Would the public like to speak on this topic? Weed abatement costs. I recently encountered someone who was interested in making government a lot smaller and was upset about the fact that local governments can impose weed abatement costs on people. I had to remind the gentleman that it's frequently cheaper to do it this way than to hire someone yourself. So we're actually providing, I think, a very good service to the people, you know, because it doesn't help anybody's property to be a fire hazard and burn down. So I see this as a good program, and if anybody'd like to speak, this is your last chance, and then I'll close the public hearing. Okay, the public hearing is closed. What's your pleasure?
Just a general comment, and I already talked to Jarve about this. There's some weeds and stuff that's behind some of the apartments on Popular, and he says that they're working on resolving that. It actually belongs to us, so it's really our responsibility, apparently, even though it's in the flood control. So, and I did get a complaint from a resident about a property, and I don't think I've actually talked to the staff about it. At the very end of Lawton, they were concerned that some of the brush was growing kind of out of hand. It's right by the, and I did take a picture of it. In fact, I was looking for it earlier on my phone, but it's at the very end of Lawton in the cul-de-sac, up in the hill. So the neighbor brought up to my attention. I ran into them in the store, and they're concerned because it's overgrown and it could become a fire hazard. So, and I'll have to give you the address, but.
I have a question of city staff, and that is, are we allowed to do this kind of weed abatement thing for beautification, or is it only for fire?
Only for fire. The fire determination is a health safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
For us to do a beautification, then we have to go through the nuisance process. So we would have to notice them, cite them again, and then have the appropriate nuisance hearings and findings, and then we can remediate the nuisance.
Too bad. Because some people, I think, would be benefited also by our trimming their weeds for beauty purposes, but we have to follow the rules. Okay, so the public hearing is closed. The motion is to approve the Council Bill R-2018-30. And there was a second?
Yeah.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, that passes unanimously. The consent calendar is there for your consideration.
I'll move it.
Second.
Go ahead. What's your question on number 7?
I'm trying to read through this, kind of confusing exactly how this works. So they're giving you $50,000, and you can use 10,000 of that for a car. Is that the deal?
Yes, for the total is 50,000, but for electric car, it's only 10,000 allowed.
Is that a car that we need to buy the car for somebody for in the performance of their duties, or is it just
This
there's
is
money out
to-
there, so we're going to get it?
No, this is to replace the old city manager car, which is the Honda Accord. It was an electric car.
Okay. And then as far as the charging station,
The charging stations cost a lot more, so we're just going to plug it in, which already just take longer to charge the car.
so you're going to build a charging station? Or
No,
not?
no, sir. Right now is looking at buying an
Buy
electric
the
car. Right.
And not do the charging station?
Correct.
What's wrong with actually building the charging station?
Pardon me?
What would be wrong with actually using the?
Nothing wrong. I'm just haven't done research on how much it
the
costs
demand.
yes, and where to put it
Okay.
and so forth. But the deadline for this, I just got this, the deadline for it is next month. So I said, well, either do it or not do it at all, so that's all.
It says 0 or near 0. What's the difference between near 0 and 0? I mean,
me-
you get a
to
Honda
me-
Civic that's a gas-powered one that's
The one
that's
electric,
cheaper.
the 100% electric car, it can't
It's
be
zero.
the other one that have gasoline and electric. Hybrid, yeah, it cannot be hybrid. And the logo match can come from the AQFD funding, so not general.
Okay, does that satisfy your curiosity? Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the consent calendar. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, the consent calendar is approved unanimously. There's no old business. Now we have new business, accepting with regret the resignations of Art Walls and Don Bender from the Traffic Advisory Committee. They've served for a long time. I've been the liaison for that committee for many years, and it's they essentially are two of the most faithful attendees and most vocal participants in the process, and I really have appreciated their input, and it's sad that they're retiring from the committee. But that also brings up openings. And now we're getting to, is there anything we need to do? Is there, Madam City Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, can we combine numbers 9 and 10? Because I think I have a strategic question about this. I don't think these are issues we can resolve tonight.
Number 9, you just accept the resignations.
Well, we can accept
It's
the resignations.
informational.
I have no issue with that, but that creates openings that fit into number 10.
And are those the two openings that are on the item 10F?
Those and a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Specifically, the Traffic Advisory Committee, it is the terms of Michael Stewart and Jerry Nelson that are expiring. Both of them have expressed interest in continuing to serve. With the resignation of the other two would leave 2 vacancies that we could continue to post.
Okay.
And
I'm
accept
sorry, you're talking
applications.
about which committee? Budget committee?
The Traffic Advisory Committee.
Traffic
specifically.
Advisory
Yes.
Committee, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so we accept the resignations. We don't have to do any vote on that. Item 10, shall we go through these individually?
Well, again, my strategic question is, we're not in a position to fill these tonight. We need applications, we need to know who has interest. I think we should reach out to the 2 recent candidates to the city council who were not elected and give them the opportunity to get engaged in some of these things. So I don't think we can just address this tonight, kind of flying by the seat of our pants.
Well, in that line of reasoning, have these positions been posted already?
The reappointments, they have been posted, yes. They've been noticed and posted, and
What does that mean?
it's on the website. It's on the website, on the board out here. It's been posted at our 3 legal posting places.
And again, to come
It's,
back to my earlier comments, communication between the city and our constituents is a challenge. We do some things, and I have no fault in that, but I think we can do more and need to do more. And so I'd like to, again, look at this more strategically to get the right people that really are motivated and are aware of the opportunity. And I'd be willing to go out and recruit some people, frankly, based on the many visits I've had over the last few months.
Well, my question on that, and also something I've asked before, is do we actively post when someone's term expires? Or do we just assume they're going to take the position and
It is posted, the terms that are expiring.
so
They are
someone
posted.
can come in and say, I challenge this renewal and I'd rather be appointed than renewing this person who's already been there? We offer that possibility.
Yeah, but again, I think even that's missing the point. The point is, there are a lot of people that don't know about these opportunities.
Well, that's for sure.
In spite of the fact we've posted them
Yeah,
on the internet.
and I'm sure if we put it in that microfiche thing in the back of the newspaper, it wouldn't improve the communication at all.
Well, so we need to find a way that would improve it.
Yeah.
And I don't have a quick and easy answer for it, but I think it's worth looking at.
Meanwhile, we've got some people whose term is expiring.
Yeah, so do we have to make these decisions tonight, or can we look at this more strategically in terms of how we can effectively communicate the opportunity and to reach out to Mr. Sanner and Mr. Uribe and give them the opportunity to plug in here?
I do believe that the current appointees would stay until the council makes a decision otherwise.
But I'd like
we could
something
we could
definitive
postpone
about that, and that we just not roll them from one year to the next.
I understand, so it could
Because
be
again,
continued.
I agree with Councilman Duper. We need to re-energize some fresh blood into some of these things.
Many of the people that are on
I don't
some
mean
of
to
the
stun
committees-
everybody, but I think it's a good idea that we try to recruit some people into these things that
Well,
have an interest. Because I can tell you, after walking the streets, again, not as much as my colleague, Mr. Duper, but there are people that have a lot of interest in what's going on in the city. And I want to be sure we reach out to them, give them the opportunity to engage.
Many of the people that are on these committees were recommended to us a number of years ago. We all knew them. One of them is Mr. Duper's wife. There's lots of people who want to participate, and I don't think that we should kick them out just because nobody's showing interest.
No.
We have this discussion every time, and it happens every 2 years. I know you might forget, but we have this issue every time. There's not enough people who want to participate, and we cannot go out there and tell people, we need more people on committees. We're tired of having the same people come show up. They have an obligation if they want to be participating. I think we have an applicant tonight. He's willing. He's paying attention. So obviously, some people are paying attention, and I think we should give the people who want to participate an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes, we've had this 2 years ago where nobody applied. We extended for one more time, and in the end, we end up reappointing everybody because nobody showed up. So.
Yeah. So it depends on how you frame it, doesn't it, Mr. Popescu? I'm not proposing we kick anybody out.
Well, but the fact that what the clerk said is there's vacancies. The people who have, some people on some of the committees have chosen to remain on there. I have no problem with reappointing them and not extending it because we might get more applicants. I'm not sure what the purpose of that would be.
The purpose is to energize the community more, give more people the opportunity to be engaged and involved. And trust me, you may not have walked the streets in a while, but the bottom line is there are a lot of people that have a keen interest in what is and isn't going on around here.
Well, you've been talking to them, so recruit them to come show up and be part of this.
I agree.
I don't know
So
what
how
else
do
to
we
tell you.
communicate that? I
Yeah.
agree. That's the core issue.
Yeah, I've always felt that we could publicize that a little better. Would it be appropriate to, these terms expired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So would it be appropriate for the people that are willing to serve to have a motion to put them back on
Well, that's
while
what's
we
going on
while
tonight.
we while we recruit other people?
That is the usual order of business.
I mean,
and
we're already
That's what we've
past
been
the
doing
term.
for the last 8 years at least.
Well, then the alternative is you just don't have it, right? So you just shut the. I mean, because they technically can't
Well,
serve unless you vote them back on it. Right?
I can think of specific people right now that would probably have an interest in these things, but they don't park at the city website to know that they're even available.
But I think that this agenda comes up every 2 years. You've been sitting on the council for 8 years. If you know there's a vacancy, you talk to those people. You just told me you talk to people, so let them know. You're the
Sure.
one communicating that.
This
So I'm
is
not
the
sure what the
first-
issue.
Sure, but this is the first time I knew we had these positions available right now. You can argue I should have known before, I didn't.
Yeah, but we do this every 2 years, though.
every 2 years, all these committees come up and we have the same conversation. There's not enough involvement. What can we do to get more? And I think what we've done in the past is each of us found people that have shown an interest, and we got them.
Yeah.
Nothing prevents you from doing so.
And again,
So,
Well, let me
It's not
let me
addressing
chime
the
in.
point.
I agree that more people need to be let known that this is available. The problem is that if we don't have a solution to that tonight, it's not going to come into effect soon enough to avoid an extended period of lame duck involvement by expired members of the committees.
I'm sorry, I struggle with that. I think if we're looking, and if I look only, and I happen to be the council representative on the Parks, Recreation, and Beautification Committee, we've got great people on there. Based on complaints that I've heard that I referenced earlier, there are other people that have a lot of concern about the beautification of the city. So this is an opportunity to reach out to some of those people and see if they're willing to be engaged.
I have a proposal. And like I said, if we don't have a solution tonight, it seems like it would be kind of crazy to wait, 3 years for a solution to just kind of materialize. But I think you have just proposed a solution. You need to seek out these people, and then we can do this at the next meeting. You've got 4
And the
weeks?
next meeting is when? How much time does that
4
give us?
weeks?
August 14. If I might, if we just take the committees one at a time, the Budget Committee, there's one term expiring of Kevin Fisher. The Historical Commission, there are 2 appointments, William Kaufman and Betty Stark. Both of those positions are expiring. William Kaufman is expressed an interest in continuing to serve. Betty Stark said she is willing to relinquish that seat if there's somebody else interested in serving. The Parks, Recreations, and Beautification Committee, there are 6 terms expiring.
There aren't more than that on the committee, are there?
They're just I think there's 8 people on the committee.
Yeah, okay.
Betty Stark is willing to step aside if somebody else is willing to serve. And Carolyn Palmieri, I understand, does not attend any of the meetings. The Personnel Board, Vern Miller has expressed an interest in continuing to serve, as has Ronald O. I've heard from him since the posting of the agenda. The Planning Commission, we have the three reappointments, and they've all expressed an interest in continuing to serve. The Traffic Advisory Committee, the 2 terms expiring, they're both interested in continuing to serve. We still have 2 vacancies then with the resignation of Mr. Walls and Mr. Bender. And the Trails Development Committee, of those with the terms expiring, all are interested in continuing to serve except Douglas Ziprick. He is unable to continue to serve, so that would leave a vacancy there as well.
Okay.
So it's your pleasure as to who to reappoint, and there
So
would still be vacancies on several of the committees that we would still need to fill.
Okay.
Even reappointing
So 2
those
questions, and this is a little embarrassing, but what is the Personnel Board? What's their charge?
They hear appeals on employee disciplinary actions that go beyond the city manager. And then if they still want to appeal the Personnel Board's decision, they would then come to the City Council.
And
They are rarely used.
Okay, well, that's good news. And each of these committees has a councilman assigned as well, am I correct?
That is correct. That is the next item, number 11 on the
Well,
agenda.
not the Personnel Board.
Oh, not the Personnel Board, no.
Okay. And just for clarification, Traffic Advisory Committee, we have 2 resignations. Are those in addition to the 2 that are expiring, so we need 4?
Yes.
Okay.
And we don't liaise with the Planning Commission either. There's no liaison to the Planning Commission.
No, that is correct.
Yeah. So the way I look at it, if we reappointed everyone who's willing to serve, and then we would have 1 Historical Commission seat available, we would have 2 on Parks and Recreation, we would have 2 on Traffic Advisory and 1 on Trails Development. Do you think you can recruit more people than that?
And what
in
I'd
the
like to
next
do
month?
is challenge each of the councilmen, including myself, that we go out and we start recruiting some people. And I have confidence that with the last 3-4 months that Councilman Duper and I have been talking with citizens and people, I think we can bring some people to the table that would be interested in serving on some
And
of these.
my question is, do you think that 6 positions would be enough for that pool of applicants?
Depends on the committees.
Or do you think that it would require 8 or 10,
Yeah.
and therefore we can't renew the people who are
And I
interested?
guess I reject the notion that we're just trying to fill spots. In my view, what we're trying to do is to get a broader sector of the community engaged. Now, maybe that'll work, and maybe it won't. I don't know.
I think it's.
But I certainly know when
I'm
people have
fully
my
in
ear.
fully in support of your position. I'm trying to just figure out if there's some kind of a middle ground. Do we have to leave all the positions open for those people, or if the fact that there are 6 positions that are naturally open after we appoint everyone who's willing to serve, is that enough for this round? You know, because in 2 years we can do it again.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the numbers to understand it better. My point is more of a philosophical one than an accounting point.
Yeah, and I
that
agree
is,
with it
I
completely.
want to reach out
Yeah.
to bring people involved. I've got specific names in mind, and I don't even know which committee they may or may not be interested in.
The only one of the committees, well, the Planning Commission is a big one, but the only one of the useful committees that are meeting on a regular basis, and I'm discounting the Personnel Board as an almost never, the only one that doesn't have openings still available would be at that point the Budget Committee and the Planning Commission.
Well, I'm here to tell you, Parks and Recreation and Beautification Committee, there is a lot of work to be done, and I certainly got an earful, and I think you did too. And we need to now, this is an opportunity to go back to some of those people and say,
But there are 2 spots on Parks and Recreation. After
no, there's 6.
No, there's 2 spots available after we reappoint the ones interested in continuing to serve.
Saying not reappoint them. He says.
You know, I understand. Yeah, I understand.
There's
I
still 2
understand your
slots
point.
available if we
And
reappoint everybody once.
And again, I'm supporting the point that Councilman Duper made earlier, which is that we need to have a vigorous engagement with the community and not just the same people be, you know, we don't need just the historians to be on the historical committee or commission, whatever, commission for the, 40 years and we just keep reappointing them.
True,
I'm
but
not
there
opposed to reappointing.
there
some
are
people.
9 members on the Historical Commission. 2 of
Well,
them are
I
up.
was only using that as an example.
2 of them are up for renewal, and 1 is willing to relinquish her seat. So there's 1 position available on
And
Historical
again,
Commission.
my point is to challenge council members to reach out and bring some names of people that have an interest and a concern that have not been engaged in the process for whatever reason.
I think that's wonderful. Because, like I said, even if we renew everybody who wants to be renewed, there are 6 positions, and I don't think we've ever had 6 applicants in one year for open positions. That's a large number. So I'm fully in favor of pulling in as many people as we can get to be involved. That's what it's about. It's a very good thing.
Thank you. Is this a
But what I'm-
pressing issue that needs to be resolved tonight, or can we do some homework?
Well,
I'm willing to do some homework.
Well, my point is that you can do your homework and we can reappoint both, because it's kind of a compromise position. Because there's 6 positions that you can work on filling,
Well,
and a bunch of others we can renew, and we don't have to do all or nothing, I don't think.
yeah, no, and I agree with that. But I don't feel that I've studied this and the people involved enough to be able to vote intelligently. I would just be voting because it's what we've always done.
Okay. Well, let's see see if we can muster some kind of a majority on this council, this divided council.
I agree.
My word is tribal.
This tribal council.
That's right.
Tribal council has other meanings that are really good. It's not all bad.
Okay.
I share your sentiment. I think it's right. I think we have not probably advertised for these positions as much as we should in the past. I wonder if in July, when the terms are already up, if it's the right time to do exactly what you're saying now. I think otherwise then all these people are not reappointed. There's nobody sitting there on these commissions. So I think that what the mayor's trying to say, what I was trying to say earlier, was that there are a lot of open spots that you could reappoint the people there and still have the open spots for more people.
Assuming
And
the open
move.
spots are on committees that people are interested in.
But like I
Well,
said,
sure.
the only three that don't have open spots, if we reappoint everybody who's interested, are Planning Commission, Personnel Board, and the Budget Committee.
Planning Commission and what?
Personnel Board and the Budget Committee would not have any open spots if we renewed those interested in continuing to serve.
Hey, I have nothing against the people that have already been engaged in serving. I understand that.
And some of them are here
At the same
tonight.
time, I don't even know who they are. I have no clue whether they.
Some of them are here tonight.
Some of them are.
Dick Wiley, he's the only, probably
Dick
the
is
only
one of
person
my
left who
favorite citizens
attends.
of the city.
He's the only one who attends every city council meeting that he can get to.
Yeah.
And
he's
Kurt
very good with
Swiger
Parks
is
and
here.
Recreation too.
Kurt Swiger's here to fight for his position on the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Yeah. And I would support that fight.
Would you like to speak? Come up.
I'll consider it. I'll be here next month.
Okay.
For the past 20-plus years, I've been on numerous commissions, and it's almost virtually impossible to get somebody to join your committee. We've had numerous people appointed to our committees who never show up. I would like to propose going forward, if we're going to add somebody to a committee, that they do maybe like a little internship and see if they're really interested. We tried that before with the Beautification Commission, and it worked real well. We got a few extra new people. But every time somebody's just appointed to a committee, they don't ever show, and we're stuck with 2 dead seats for 2 more years. And I think it's a great idea to get more people involved. But I think what's going on is you have a lot of people that all they want to do is complain, but they really don't want to get involved.
Those are fair points. I don't disagree with anything you've said. My point is,
I'd love some help.
I think that we can do a better job of recruiting people and communicating with the, Phil and I heard a lot about, we don't know what's going on. And I told them we're on TV on Tuesday nights and there's a website, and I told them all that stuff. It didn't alleviate their concerns. And I agree with you. So it's time to put up or shut up.
Yeah,
and I think Phil and I are in a good position to recruit some people now.
Because obviously we need some help.
Yeah. No, good point.
Are you thinking like maybe a non-voting member or an alternate or something like that? Appoint people as an alternate to start with? Or I'm just thinking out loud, just thinking on what you said.
I wouldn't mind that, but anything that would just get somebody involved that was really wanted to be there. Because we've just had a situation where they get appointed because they're the only ones that apply for it, and then they never show up. And then it's just month after month that they just don't show up. And then in 2 years, we dump them.
If each council member recruited 3 people for whatever, that's 15 more people that would be
I'd like to
engaged
challenge
and
you
involved.
to get your 3.
What's that?
I'll challenge you for your 3.
Okay, I agree.
I've had people come to me and ask how they could get involved. And I give them the information. And it doesn't go any further.
But
Yeah, we got to work it. We got to work it.
Like Kurt says, the problem is even when we appoint people, those people don't have showing up, and so it does no good. So you really have the same folks that have been here that have been carrying the city for the longest period of time. And so we move numbers around and move people around these committees. It's still the same folks that are doing it. So I'll make a motion, 9, 10, 11, we reappoint the folks that are still there, and we, in earnest, look to recruit on the vacancies, and we move on.
I'll second that.
I have a comment. There is an item, there's a person who actually applied. Is he here? He's not. Okay.
For which?
I don't know. He applied for 3
We have
committees.
also talked in the last 8 years where we have made it an unofficial rule that anybody who...
Oh, is it you? Is it you?
I don't think so.
You're the only one. Okay. Well, no, before you step up, I just want to make sure that we make a decision as to whether we address his position since he's here and he's interested, or you want to do it at the same time with the vacancies.
Well, one of the things that we've always done that's unofficial rule is we've pretty much demanded that anybody that we were going to reappoint appear in person, so we have the opportunity to interview them.
Or you mean,
Or,
you
I
mean
mean,
to
appoint.
apply? Yeah,
Correct.
correct.
So,
Well, they
I mean,
certainly get
it's-
preference. I
it's-
don't think we demand it, but they certainly
Well,
get
we
preference.
asked.
I
No.
think we did. I think we actually denied a couple that just didn't show
Correct.
after a couple of requests. So, I mean, it's phenomenal. Mr. Alfaro is here, so I'd love to hear him come up and speak. And if we're happy with him, then again, my motion stands with him included, and we move on down the road.
Come forward and press your case.
Good evening.
Oh, you're interested in the personnel board.
Yeah, so my experience with loss prevention and human resource and dealing with
Can you pull the mic in front of you? Thank
my
you.
experience dealing with appeals, human resource, and loss prevention gives me some experience dealing with this type of situations.
You showed an interest in historical and trails, but not the other committees. I'm just curious why.
Because I enjoy history, and so when a person enjoys doing something, they'll put an extra effort and go above and beyond.
And then what about the trails?
That was the least of my interest.
Okay, I see. That's just in order. I see. Okay.
And I'm sorry, I missed what Councilman Popescu said. Was it, what propelled your interest in applying? Is that what you were answering?
So to answer your question, a person who wants to serve will serve. I called the city, spoke to Barb, and I applied. You could appoint, you can egg on people, but if they don't want to serve, they won't give it their all. I want to serve. I also want to be on the board of the Loma Linda Chamber of Commerce.
And what's your reasoning for wanting to do all that?
Because I have a degree in business, it'll get me involved in the community. Being a newer member of Loma Linda, it's a positive outlet, and it allows me to work with the city and help the city in any way they need.
And how long have you lived here?
So I'm going on my 4th month.
So when you look at this list of committees
All right,
that are on the screen,
very well.
where are your interests and what motivates you to have those specific interests?
So
I'm concerned if you're just saying I'm interested in getting
No.
involved in anything and everything.
So with the personnel one, because at my company I work with HR and I deal with appeals of terminations. So with that experience, it would allow me to use and utilize my foundation in that field.
Okay.
With the Historical Commission, I understand the importance of history. And that also ties in with parks, recreation, and beautification. There's a lot of historical aspects to the city, and I know a lot of the citizens here want their history here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Most of the people on the historical committee look more like me than you, so it'd be a nice change to bring somebody with color in their hair.
Yeah. So to Mr. Duper's comment, he wants to euthanize and get more people involved.
Yeah.
About 2-3 weeks ago, he said he wants somebody from Loma Linda to run for student or school board at Redlands.
Yeah.
So this is the opportunity to get a younger group involved.
Well, thank you for coming out tonight. I mean, you're the kind of citizen we're looking for. Do we have his name and contact information? For
It's right here. His application is on file. And you listed on your application Trails Development as well.
Correct.
My question on personnel issues,
Mm-hmm.
what is your involvement with the appeals? You said it's the appeals of termination?
Correct. So usually what happens is if an associate gets terminated for productivity or some other offense, it's my job to get a board together, which includes various levels of associates, whether it's higher management, lower level, different departments. We then bring the associate into the building and he discusses why he was terminated. The appeals team listens to their reasoning and then makes a determination based on the rules and guidelines. If the rules and guidelines were followed and the termination was proper, then the appeal cannot be appealed. It was under the correct basis. If there was some type of a gray area, then the appeals committee can overturn the termination.
So you're kind of the hearing officer?
Arbitrator, hearing officer,
Okay.
coordinator.
So you're like the intermediary.
Correct.
You're not you don't take sides. You're kind of the neutral guy.
I'm not all three. I'm not the judge and investigator, no.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Thank you for your motivation to be involved.
I
Seriously,
take back
thank
what I
you.
said about the personnel board because one of the members up for an expiring term has not responded.
He did.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay.
I'm not willing to make a blanket decision on these. I think we need to look at them, frankly. And whether we do that tonight or in a few weeks doesn't make a lot of difference. Well, it does make a difference to me. I'd rather put it off until, I don't think there's anything earth-shattering that needs to be handled with any of these committees over the next 4 weeks.
But as the chair, I'll note that there was a motion and a second to approve all of those interested in returning to get their positions. Is there possibly?
So I'm obviously speaking in opposition to that motion.
And there was a motion and a second, and
I just brought up the fact that he was present, so we need to
Oh,
make
yeah.
a decision about the one
Yeah.
person who's here, that's all.
so
Yeah,
my
I agree.
question
I agree.
was, would the mover of the motion be willing to amend it to include appointing Mr. Alfaro?
I'd like to separate those
To
because
one
I'm
of the-
for one and against the other.
Okay. Then I think your motion could stand because it's basically to approve the ones and there's still openings. So, okay, there's a motion and a second to reappoint all of those who are willing to serve. And I want to clarify whether Betty Stark's willingness to relinquish her seat if someone else is interested is operative if there is currently no one willing to take her seat. Because she's not saying she doesn't.
Again, we don't know. We don't know.
Well, it's somebody took her comments and transcribed them into this format that says willing to relinquish her seat if someone else is interested in serving,
But we don't
willing
know
to
if anybody
continue
else is
if
interested
needed.
or not.
But my question is, does her statement mean we can, with Mr. Duper's motion, leave her seat open until we decide that issue?
Well, if we have someone that's interested in that position, no, you have the opportunity to appoint somebody. That's where I am understanding.
But we have to do it in the right sequence, because if we take it as she's going to be reappointed, then there is no position, if we do them separately. I'm trying to be Mr. Roberts' rules, make sure we don't make a mistake.
And I would be comfortable in appointing Mr. Alfaro to that committee.
To which one?
To the one with Ms. Stark potentially.
So that would be
Parks and
historical
Recreation.
or Parks and Recreation,
Yes.
or both?
Parks and Recreation would be my.
Which would you prefer?
Or do you have
both.
time for both?
when I came on board, I said I would do whatever is necessary. So if we need to do both, then let's do both.
And you'll show up to the meetings.
I'll make my own schedule.
Good
So,
man.
The Historical Commission has way more open vacancies. It's got a 9-member commission, and we only have, I don't think we have all 9 of those seats. It only shows us who's expiring, but I don't think we have all 9 of those seats filled. I'm more comfortable with the Parks and Rec Beautification Committee. I think that's one of the areas where we've already identified and not anything negative, but Mr. Alfaro, a lot of the people that are on our historical commission have lived here for 40, 50, 60, 100 years. It is a blue zone. And
Like I said, they look like me.
they probably, I mean, they have a lot of personal vested interest in the history, and I don't want to discount that. So I appreciate that. We do have, if we have additional openings and it doesn't change or force anybody out of that, because I'm not sure out of the 9 what we have filled or not, because it's not indicated here.
The Parks Committee?
No, the Historical
The
Commission.
Historical Commission? There is one vacancy with Betty Stark willing to step aside if somebody's interested.
That would be the
And
only
then William
vacancy.
Kaufman is interested in continuing to serve.
So I would like to see.
Does he live in Loma Linda? I don't think he lives in Loma Linda.
Who?
William Kaufman.
Oh.
I would have to go back and look. I don't know off the top of my head.
But see, I think that's the, I mean, I'm
Well-
an idealist, okay? I'm a child of the 60s.
I would suggest to move this along. If Mr. Alfaro is truly
Go.
interested in getting in at some level, we have the one here right away that we know about, the Parks and Rec Committee, and we kind of go from there. And if he wants to serve, I know many of our board members serve on multiple committees, but instead of just throwing you on to 10 at once, we do the trial type of thing and see how it works out for you.
Milford, how many of these committees are you on?
I'm on none, but I would like to be on the traffic committee.
All right.
As Jarb knows, he gets calls from me almost weekly about traffic safety
Good.
malfunctions.
All right. See? Those
Okay.
are the kind of people I want to recruit on these
when the
things.
time comes, we'll remember what you just said.
Thank you.
So is there, let's do it in the, let's appoint the interested new people before we do the renewals, okay?
So
Just to make it cleaner.
I would make a motion that Mr. Alfaro replace Ms. Stark on the Parks, Recreation, Beautification Committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Alfaro to Parks, Recreation, Beautification, replacing Betty Stark. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Congratulations. You're our newest member of that committee. And I would like to take this time to appoint the former mayor to the Traffic Advisory Committee.
I'll second the motion.
So that's all it takes, just to show up and raise your hand?
Well, no, I mean,
There's still another slot.
Milford's been engaged in this community for a long time.
You get in.
He knows things the rest of us don't even understand yet.
I was born here.
There you go. Yeah.
There's a
And that's
motion.
what, 80 years ago?
He's the only mayor to have
Don't
been
answer.
born here.
Is there anybody else that calls you up that's as annoying as Mr. Harrison here on the traffic issues that you could put on?
That's a lot.
Well, maybe you can give some names to Mr. Daly.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to appoint Milford Harrison to the Traffic Advisory Committee. Is there any other discussion?
And again, I said it tongue-in-cheek, but I'm serious. I'd like to challenge each of the city councilmen, including myself, to recruit minimum 3, and more is better, to show an interest in some of these committees. And I want to see some dynamic engagement. And I think that's part of our responsibility as councilmen, is to recruit those people.
Sentiments. You mentioned the 2 gentlemen who ran this election, and I know that both of your flyers talked about the fact that they weren't involved, and I think you're given an opportunity to get more involved. So if they're truly serious about being involved, I think that's how you do it. You start off at a committee, so.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, so let's have the
first
vote.
two people we should contact are Sander and Uribe.
Those in favor of appointing Mr. Harrison to the Traffic Advisory Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. That's unanimous. You've been drafted.
So you're back in the city.
Okay, now let's go to the issue of reappointing those interested in continuing to serve.
I move 9 through 11 as stated before.
Well, 11 is liaison committee. That's our liaison to
Yep.
you're moving that we continue the same.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anybody who has any objection to that?
I do. Even though I'm part of the Duper tribe, I want to have a little time to recruit some more interest in it.
This is not, okay.
No,
So you're talking about item 10.
You're saying just automatically reappoint. I don't know who those people are, whether they show up or not.
Are you opposed? Okay.
I'm opposed to a blanket motion.
Okay. Then I will exercise the chair's prerogative and split up the motion. 9 requires no vote. 10 is what we're going to vote on now, and 11 we'll do separately, since I probably predict that there will be unanimity on 11 and a split vote on 10. So we shouldn't conflate them. Okay, so item 10, what's your motion on that? Mr. Duper.
I'll move it.
Okay.
Yeah,
but he said items 9 through 11. He included item 11, which I think we shouldn't add since there's a split vote on 10. So, okay, there's a motion to approve all of the interested members on item 10, and there's a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no.
No.
Okay, so that passes 4-1. Now item 11. Okay, any further discussion? Any opposition?
Just out of curiosity, who are the council members on these committees and commissions?
It's in the packet.
I didn't.
Budget Committee is Rigsby Popescu, Historical Commission, Rigsby, Parks, Recreation, Beautification, Daily, Traffic Advisory, Rigsby, Trails Committee, Duper.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve all of those to the same people. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Are there any reports of councilmen?
I should point out, if you haven't read the paper, but we just recently signed a 10-year lease with FedEx, and if everything goes well, they should start operations at the airport October 1st. And we're in the process of doing an EIR on about 1 million square feet of warehouses on the north part for cargo. Tenant is yet to be determined, but we're moving forward on that.
Any reports, any other reports of councilmen? Any reports of officers? Okay, then the city council is adjourned. And is there nothing else? We've never had nothing. Oh. So when is our next meeting?